Hey folks, it's Sam once again, and welcome back to another review. And this time is of the the movie and the Blu-ray of American Ninja 2: The Confrontation, my favorite of the American Ninja films. Once again, thanks to DMC for sending me this. Once again, it's the best I've seen American Ninja 2 look. That looked pretty damn good on Blu-ray. Features, once again, you have a little making of. This one about 15, 16 minutes. With Sam Firstenberg, Michael Dudikoff, Conway, who's the villain as well as the writer, and executive producer Avi Lerner, and stunt coordinator BJ Davis, as well as the trailer. Also has a commentary with Sam Firstenberg, with a moderator involved. I will say the making of, pretty pointless, honestly. All they say is they went to South Africa. Dudikoff says this much in it. It's like, why the hell was he even in the featurette? All he pretty much says is that his character seemed like a little bit more social in the sequel. Which I'm like, it's not like he was talking all the time, so he wasn't that social. But yeah, that's like one of the only things Dudikoff says, and he gives kudos to Conway, who had written the script and played the villain. Avi Lerner, he's there to give his 2 cents on. He was in South Africa when they came, and he would try to help with movies. They talk about how it was a lower budget movie than the first one. That Gary Conway, his previous script, he had a previous script and something dealing with a super ninja. And BJ Davis and Sam Firstenberg talked about a little bit about the brawl in the Western Saloon. Just, hey, let's have some fun. Dudikoff mentions about how when the two characters jump over a cliff into the water, Steve James mentioned he can't swim. So they got the stunt guy, and then the stunt guy couldn't swim. Avi Lerner, just, like I said, just about funding some little loopholes while working in South Africa. Chunter town about apartheid was happening at the time, and Steve James was like a hero in South Africa. So it's not like you learn nothing, but it's just, I wish Michael Dudikoff could get prodded to saying more. It's a featurette that after 15 minutes I watched it, and then like 10 minutes later I'm like, really? That was it? But the commentary I liked. I liked the commentary. Sam Firstenberg. Again, seems like a nice guy. Gives quite a bit of info. Talks about how after the first one he did Avenging Force, and how in that film Avenging Force was also a film that was supposed to be for Chuck Norris, and it was Chuck Norris and his daughter. But then when Dudikoff got it, they thought, well, he's a little bit too old to have a daughter, so they turned to his sister. And that Steve James did not want to die in that movie, but it was in the script. And then about shooting in South Africa for this film. And Sam Firstenberg actually thinks Avenging Force is a better movie, or I should say a better action movie than the American Ninja films. But it wasn't as successful. You get the hint that maybe he thinks Avenging Force is his best movie, Sam Firstenberg, but apparently it wasn't as successful as the American Ninja movies. Which I would say this is my favorite film Sam Firstenberg has done, but I like Avenging Force. It's grown on me. I reviewed it. It's on this channel. And even in the commentary, they mention apartheid. There's one scene that I always wondered for the longest time, and I'm glad the moderator brought this up. There's a scene where you obviously see a Michael Dudikoff double. It's like Steve James and a guy who's not Michael Dudikoff, and they walk out. Like, they turn and they walk out. It's like, here's the back of them. They turn, you see their face, and they walk out. And the moderator is asking Sam Firstenberg, and he tells a funny story about how they were just shooting the back, and Dudikoff had done the scenes from the front, and Dudikoff was not feeling well. So, oh, the close-ups are finished? Sure, you can rest. We just need the wide shots from the back. But apparently it wasn't planned that the double and Steve were supposed to turn around. That wasn't planned. And then when they were editing, they saw on a very small screen, so they didn't realize it. But on the big screen and on a TV, of course, you could tell that is a double. So it was just a big screw up. Gary Conway, the villain, who was the writer. I think something about how they had bought Gary Conway's script without knowing it, and some fraud, but not over this movie. Somehow over the movie Over the Top. I guess I guess Over the Top was based on a script that Gary Conway had worked on, or they had bought it without him knowing it, and there's some fraud going on, and then they had to pay him, and part of the deal was to give him another movie to act and write, which was this movie. Because Over the Top had not come out yet. That was 86. Well, no, that was the same year as this, 87. So yeah, they were making it. So, and Sam Firstenberg's original idea was to take place in a neighborhood where Michael Dudikoff had a dojo training kids, and these bad guys take over the neighborhood, and Steve James, Michael Dudikoff would take over. Well, not take over, but they would fight these bad guys, and it was an urban story in a neighborhood setting, and that would have been interesting. That would have been really interesting, because I'm like, that reminds me of something like Death Wish 3, or something, just an urban story. I guess there's a lot of movies, not just Death Wish 3, but that urban story. That would have been interesting to see. But they had to shoot in South Africa, and it's hard to make South Africa look like an urban American city. So they had to sort of use what they could. One thing about Sam Firstenberg on a commentary, he seems like a nice guy, but at times it's like he over-explains things, or he takes too long to explain something, maybe because English is not his first language. But that's my only gripe, is that sometimes it just takes a little bit too long to explain something, or he over-explains things too much. But they do talk about George S. Clinton's score, which is a great score. They talk about Mike Stone, who's the villain in this movie. Sort of the more of the martial art villain, I should say. Gary Conway is more the drug kingpin type, while Mike Stone is the martial arts bad guy. And Mike Stone, I guess, had worked with Elvis. And like some story that he ran away with Priscilla. Which I don't know if that's true, but I never knew that. And that he was a bodyguard for like the Rolling Stones or something. I'm like, okay, I didn't know that about Mike Stone. And he does mention this, which is I thought was pretty cool, that there are people who come up to him and say that they like 2 better than 1. Now, Sam Firstenberg likes 1 better than 2. But he says there are people who say that American Ninja 2 is better than the first one, and I'm one of them. I like the first one, but I'm one of them. I do think the second one's better. So it's a fun commentary. It's a fun... Just to have the film in good picture quality, and the only time on DVD I saw this in the U.S. was a flipper disc with the third film. So to have it by itself, not a flipper disc, and good picture quality, decent commentary, it's a good Blu-ray. But I just wish Michael Dudikoff could have said more in his interview, among others. But yeah, the making of is disappointing, but the commentary was pretty decent. But getting to the film itself, it's one of those things where I think it's a sequel that did things better than the first one, in my opinion. I thought that it moved at a faster pace. Of course, it helps it's like 10 minutes shorter, but I thought it moved at a faster pace. I thought it moved at a breakneck pace. I mean, right from the get-go, you have this point of view of a motorcycle going through these swirling roads with this pulse-pounding score by George S. Clinton. If you go on YouTube, you type in American Ninja and then Truckin'. Hell, my friend Mike, OCB Communications, did a tribute to the American Ninja films with that piece of music, Truckin'. That's from American Ninja 2. It's like, but dun 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 dun, but dun 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 dun. Awesome piece of music. I love it. I think it's the best score of all of these films. Just really, I mean, the score for the first one, it's there. I think the score in this one was much improved. Also, Steve James felt like he had more to do. Granted, in the second half of the film, he kind of gets less to do in the second half, which is disappointing. But definitely the first half, he has much more to do than he did in the first one. He seems like he's much more part of the film. He's much more screen time, I should say. And this one is a little bit more of a comic book movie, whereas more of a fun, fast-paced vibe, while the first one, I don't want to say try to be a little bit more serious, but it had a little bit of the love story aspect and a little bit of the drama with Joe's backstory, which was not much. It's just he had amnesia and he got taught by a guy, and then which works for the film. I mean, I'm not downplaying the first one. I like the first one, but this one was just much more of a straightforward, kick-ass action movie. As Dudikoff and Steve James as Army Rangers being sent to the Caribbean to look at the disappearance of these Marines. After opening where these Marines are on a motorcycle, great point of view shots, so they get kidnapped, and we find out later what's going on. But when Steve and Dudikoff arrive, I like the supporting cast as well. I like their CO, Wild Bill. I think the actor's name, wrote it down, Jeff Celentano. He had like a big mustache. I thought he did fine. And the guy who hangs out with him, Charlie, played by Larry Poindexter. It's a hell of a last name, Poindexter. He was actually fun as well. He fit the film. Fun cast. Doesn't take long for the action to kick in with these guys to kick ass. They go on the beach with ninjas are there and try to kidnap them, and they kick some ass. I'm on these rocks. Dudikoff and Steve James. Steve James kicks some ass, takes some names. So does Dudikoff. I'm not going to go in detail for the fight scenes. Watch it for yourself. It's fun choreography. Like I said in the first review for the first movie, in the first one, it seems like Dudikoff could only do punches mostly, but here he could do a bit more with his feet as well. So you see a little bit more move sets, a little bit more kicking, a little bit more using his feet as well as using his fists. And so I think Michael Dudikoff was able to utilize more martial arts in this one than the first one, which is another thing I like more than the first one. I like the score better. I like that Steve James is much more screen time. He has much more screen time with Dudikoff. He's much more screen time with the plot of the film. It doesn't have a love story to get in the way because, to be perfectly honest, I don't think these films need love stories. It goes at a faster pace, and it is a shorter movie. And again, Michael Dudikoff seems like utilizes a bit more actual move sets of martial arts. And also, after Dudikoff gets tricked to go into this bar and kick some people's ass, including one of them is Kane Hodder. Kane Hodder is one of the stunt guys in the movie that Dudikoff kicks his ass. And he has some fun lines, like the Wild Bill character, this is really beginning to get on my tits. And you're like, what? It was really funny. Or the scene where they had to be dressed as Marines in these blue uniforms. And this girl is protesting and she gets taken. And the CO, like in the first one, the CO and Colonel, they were bad guys. They were assholes. Here, the CO is a good guy. He's actually not an uptight prick. He seems like way at the beginning, but as the film goes on, he's actually in line with these guys, and he's actually a cool character. It's like, well, I don't think the military's ever let a woman down yet. And I think Steve James says, we should go kick some ass. And even the CEO of Wild Bill goes, take my car. And I follow the lady back to the bar. My favorite scene in the movie, this big bar fight. Dudikoff kicking people's ass, trying to go up the stairs to save this lady, while everyone's just getting on Steve James and just does the Hercules, throwing everybody. He's like, it's a party! And one guy's like, as Steve James is a guy, one guy goes, hey, hey, what? And then makes the guy punch one of his other fellow bad guys. Or this big guy punches Steve James. Every time he punches him, Steve James is laughing more. I like the big guy. He's like, oh shit. It just whaps the big guy's ass, knocks him out. Like another guy comes like, hey, what's happening, brother? Just throws him right across the table. Much more of a humor in this as well. Yeah, it's pretty damn funny and on purpose. It's not like funny and they didn't know they were making. A lot of levity in this, a lot of fun. And they leave and their car's fucked up and they bring the car back, this fucked up car. Oh, we just had to go kick some ass, sir. And I even like the store did that. Doom, boom, doom, 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 wow. I'm doing a shitty job of it, but I thought George Clooney just did a great job in the store, and that's a really funny scene when they bring the car back. It's just totally fucked up. And pretty much, unfortunately, Steve James kind of gets sidetracked after that until the ending of the movie, which is too bad. Because Dudikoff dealing with the girl, and then this kid who helps him find the girl. And again, still a lot of fun action bits where Dudikoff like breaks one ninja's leg in half. A guy has one of those things that you use to climb walls, takes a guy and scratches his own, makes the guy scratch his own face with it. Takes a ninja star, throws it into a ninja's head, and you have this big truck chase where the ninja is following them almost as if the ninja's a fucking Terminator and just will not stop. He's being dragged and punching through the window, and then he's going on the front of the truck, he's climbing on the front of the truck, and ultimately the truck, they jump out on the truck with the ninja on it, hits something and it explodes. And pretty much the girl takes him to this island where these bad guys are at, doing something with, dealing with super ninjas or something, whatever the plot is. And that deals with drugs for some reason. I didn't really care what the plot was. And then get into a finale where Joe finds some of the missing Marines and leads them to this arena, and they gotta fight a bunch of ninjas to get out alive, while Steve James and the group lead the compound. Merry Christmas, and throws a grenade, blows up some ninjas, has these, I don't know what you call it, sort of a shotgun grenade launcher, something like that, just blowing the shit out of people. And then he gets a fun scene fighting ninjas. He didn't, unlike the first one, he didn't get to fight ninjas. Here, he actually gets to fight ninjas and kicking ass, taking names. I even like the little pieces of music that George Clooney uses for Steve James himself. Do 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 do. Down, 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 down. I'm doing a shitty job of it, but just fun scene where Steve James gets to use his fighting skills, kicking ass, pulling this one ninja's ass, and guy tries to get back up. Steve James like, stay down. And Dudikoff gets in a big sword fight with the Mike Stone, the bad guy, and kills him. And a little bit familiar with the ending where Dudikoff in a ninja garb, and one of the final shots takes the mask off, and then Steve James is there. And hey, you know, I can deal with that little bit of repeating. And then pretty much they say goodbye and they head off, and I will admit there was a teeny bit where I kind of was a bit sad, and that's Steve James and Michael Dudikoff. They walk off and they have sort of like friends with their arms around each other going to the plane. And it's sad because I think this is the last time those two would ever work together in the film. Because they did American Ninja, then The Vision Force, and then this movie. And yeah, these guys never did a movie again. Steve James and Dudikoff, they never did a movie together again. Because yeah, American Ninja 3, which had Steve James, but no Dudikoff. Then yeah, American Ninja 4, which had Dudikoff, but no Steve James. And then, yeah, they never worked together again, and that's really sad. Again, I really, really do miss Steve James. And he's a huge reason why I love this film a lot. Dudikoff does a great job. He has that same cool, squinty-eyed, easygoing demeanor to him. But Steve James is a lot of joy to watch. That, very fast-paced, tons of action, tons of fisticuffs, explosions, fist fights, a very fun bar fight, great score by George S. Clinton. A lot of reasons why I enjoyed this film a lot. Easily my favorite of the American Ninja films. And some fun humor, bit of tongue-in-cheekness to it. And I just, yeah, I miss movies like this, and I just really do miss Steve James. I wish they would have put him on the cover, though. That's one thing. He deserves to be on the cover here. I think he's on the cover of the VHS or the DVD I have. They should have put it on there. I mean, yeah, they have his name, but so yeah, the cover's not that good. The featurette isn't really much, but the commentary's decent and the picture quality's pretty good. So, and just to have it by itself and not on a flipper DVD disc with the third film. So I'm really glad I have this. So thank you DMC for that. Nice to see this. It actually looked pretty damn good in HD. So thank you so much for that DMC for sending me this. Thanks for watching, take care, and stay tuned for my review of the third in this sort of triple feature for tonight. The so-so okay time waster, but not as good as the first two, American Ninja 3, Blood Hunt. And I'm not reviewing 4 and 5. I reviewed them in the past. Those reviews rants are still up. I didn't get them. I don't want to get them. I don't like those movies. They're pieces of shit. I'd rather watch this movie than either 4 or 5. And those rants for those are still up. So if you want to go back and watch those, because I'm not watching them again. But I'll talk about this. So see you in a bit. Later.